Classics meet jazz. We live in an age of fusion, and I like to think that we can do both. But it wasn't always that way. Classical musicians tend to be about playing things correctly and perfectly. Jazz musicians tend to be about taking risks, and taking risks and playing things perfectly are not always compatible. But, we've been borrowing from each other for a long time. Classical musicians tend to envy jazz musicians because of their ability to do spontaneous improv. Jazz musicians respect classical musicians because of the complex forms and the sight reading. So we can learn from each other. Scott Joplin wrote 2 operas. Duke Ellington orchestrated big works. Ravel, Bernstein, and Copland borrowed from jazz and Latin music. The modern jazz quartet, they were criticized because they borrowed from fugues and counterpoint. Pianist Horace Silver used to take little licks from classical music and weave them into his jazz improvs. Both sides, I think, claim Gershwin. In any case, I think that the greatest musical compliment is to borrow from one another. And I don't think that you have to be one or the other absolutely. So, what we're going to talk about today is taking a classical theme and making it jazzy. I have 2 samples here. The first is called In the Hall of the Jazz Kings, which is a nod to In the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg. So I'll play a little bit of this and then I'll show you another example as well. It goes on from there. What made it jazzy? A swing instead of, amongst other things. Here's another example. I've taken For Elise and created a jazz waltz. Here's where it goes jazz waltzy. Etc. So your job today for an improv is to take something simple, a simple tune that's really in your fingers, something like Ode to Joy. If it's too fussy and has too many notes, it's harder to improvise on. So Ode to Joy is actually a really good choice. Now, what can you do without Ode to Joy? You could add some non-root chords on the offbeats. Something like that. You can also do a walking bass. How about a walking bass? Watch the syncopation. So I'm just going up and down my fingers to make the walking bass. And you can do just about anything. Remember, what makes things jazzy is a swing, non-root chords, syncopation, and most of all, surprise. Have fun.